Hey there. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and I'm going to be talking about my favorite hobby tool. And no, it's not any of those. It's this. No. It'll make sense. I promise. And it won't be too pretentious. Probably. Right now on YouTube, there are 1,000,001 videos out there where people talk about the best tools to use with miniature modeling. Be it specific paints, brushes, knives, epoxy, or whatever. And I'm not saying that these are all wrong, but I am going to be taking a somewhat different approach to the question. And when I take an honest look at this, there's no question that it has to be my sketchbook. So what do I use my sketchbook for with miniature hobbying? As it's a primarily three-dimensional medium, and so there's not a whole lot of sketching to be done. Well, I use my sketchbook to express and plan out my ideas. If you're anything like me, and if you are, I am truly sorry, you probably have a lot of different things floating around your head all the time. And so when an idea pops in there, and my brain starts to fixate on it, going off in all kinds of different and crazy directions, I need some way to structure and guide that into something productive, which is where the sketchbook comes in. While I've frequently done little sketches when daydreaming in the past, it was never part of my formal hobby process until I actually started this channel, as I even mentioned it in my first video. I discovered that by sitting down and sketching out those ideas, it allows me to take them from the confused, intangible form and give them structure. Drawing out an idea can let you better understand just how it looks and functions. You don't even have to be great at drawing, as the quality doesn't really matter as long as it makes sense to you. Coming from an artistically inclined family, I've been drawing for as long as I can remember. And while I've never done any formal training and my actual techniques are incredibly amateurish, it feels comfortable. And I'm able to convey my ideas on the page in a way that is clear and understandable to me, regardless of whether it makes sense to anyone else. And once we have our idea, we can then use this to set up our plan of attack. By having a better understanding of what we're trying to achieve, we can begin figuring out what steps we'll need to take to get there. For instance, how much will need to be sculpted, what can be kit bashed, and what might just not be possible. And those steps don't have to be straightforward or conclusive, as at any time we can go back to the book to update and try out new things and ideas, even taking direct inspiration from bits and pieces we decided we might want to use to visualize how they may look together. This will even have an impact on the non-building steps like painting, as the other things we're trying to communicate in our sketches is a tone or story, which will be the main drive when developing our color schemes. And this doesn't just have to be for the current project you're working on. Hobbyists are notorious for hopping between projects and getting distracted. So if you start sketching down ideas for future plans or imaginary dream projects, your sketchbook transforms from not just a tool for planning, but a catalog of concepts and images that we can pick up at any time, leaf through, and get inspired by. And when we finally do get to that dream project, we'll have a solid foundation ready to go to build off of. This even goes for more than just hobbying, as I use sketching for lots of different things, from organizing a room to designing a workspace, and even planning out bigger construction projects. The only real drawback I find to using a sketchbook like this is the fact that you're not always going to have it around when you need it. My mind is constantly wandering, and I'm always finding myself absent-mindedly doodling in the margins of forms and notes and all over loose papers. And while this means my ideas are scattered around all kinds of places, even if I don't always have them to hand, the act of drawing them out still helps to solidify the ideas in my brain so that when I do come back to my sketchbook or hobby desk, the image is clearer and more concrete. For instance, I have this grand idea for a custom Arnor force to go up against my growing Angmar army, with individual heraldry and lore for each of the splintered kingdoms, as well as an image of a unified Arnor of old. The most fun of these being some potential Rudorian warriors. The men of Rudor are closely integrated with the Wild Hillmen of the north, and together they end up allying themselves with Angmar in the war against their brother kingdoms. So I've always thought it would be fun to have a few men of Rudor included in my Angmar army to add some variety. So having come up with a look and feel for them, I picked up some kits and then began using those as direct inspiration for more design and sketches. And finally led to a little test unit being made who will fit nicely in my orc rabble. We'll maybe talk more about them in a future video. So, I highly recommend everyone giving sketching a try, as it's a truly invaluable skill and tool in our hobby. I've even included a link in the description of this video to some cheap sketchbooks I found on Amazon. These are affiliate links, so if you do go and do some shopping through them, you'll directly be helping to support and grow our little community here. But this isn't the only way to do it. As I said, this works for me as I'm comfortable with sketching. However, I always think back to a quote from one of the behind-the-scenes features on an old Lord of the Rings DVD, talking about how in the art department, the people working on conceptual maquettes would produce something in 3 dimensions as easily and quickly as those working in 2D. So what I really want to convey here is to explore what works for you. What ways do you find best to communicate your thoughts? So explore, create, experiment, as your work will benefit for it. And so, thank you to everyone who made it this far in the video. As while we did get some work done, I know this was definitely a rambly one. So, let me know in the comments below if you like sketching out your ideas and projects, or do you use any other tools, physical or digital? And be sure to subscribe and follow me on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss out on our next project in 2 weeks, as it should be a really fun one. And one last big thanks to all my supporters here, and especially our Patreon. So as always, I'm Anders, and have a good one, everyone.